இப்போ பாருங்க. இப்போ பாருங்க. லைவ் வந்துச்சுங்களா? இப்போ யூடியூப்ல பாருங்க மேடம். வந்துச்சு. ப்ரௌச்சர் வந்துச்சா? இப்போதைக்கு நான் இமேஜ் தான் போட்டு வச்சுருக்கேன். ஏன்னா இன்னும் ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகலை இல்லைங்களா, அதுக்காக இமேஜ் போட்டு வச்சுருக்கேன். ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே, சரிங்க மேடம். தேங்க்யூ. ஓகே, தேங்க்யூ. Sir, now it is in live. சார் ஒரே நிமிஷம் சார், ஒரே ஒரு செக்கிங் மட்டும் பண்ணிடுறேன் சார். வந்துட்டேன் சார். லாக்டவுன்ல மணிகிட்ட சொல்லிருக்கேன், எல்லாத்தையும் போட்டேன் சார்.
மெயில் அனுப்புறேன். நான் அதை போட்டுக்கியா? ஓகே சார், அனுப்புங்க சார், நாங்கள் போய் காப்பி பண்ணுறோம். எனக்கு அனுப்புங்க. என்ன 40 சார். நான் ஜாயின் பண்ணிட்டேன். ஓகே சார், லைவ்
டிஸ்பிளே வர்ற வரைக்கும் இமேஜ் டிஸ்பிளே. அதை விட இதில் கொஞ்சம் ஈஸியாக இருக்குது எனக்கு எனக்கு
Sorry, good evening.
Good evening, Chandrakumar. How are you?
Sir, how are you, sir?
Excellent. So, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. So another 2 minutes, sir.
No problem. We can just be sharing the screen once. I'll just do a quick check.
Please go ahead. Yes, sir. We are seeing the screen.
Okay, great. Great. I will stop sharing.
யாருன்னு தெரியலையா?
Great.
Another 2 more minutes, so we can go.
Sure. No problem. Take your time. How was the event so far?
It's going fine, sir. Today is the second day.
Yes.
And just now the evaluation is going.
There's one more day. Tomorrow also it will continue.
Yes, yes.
How many colleges are participating?
Around, we have seven problem statements from two government of Pondicherry and government of Goa.
Very nice.
Around 35 teams. Total of 210 students are participating.
Excellent. And if the mark from
இதெல்லாம்
outside the
லைவ்ல
state
போயிட்டு இருக்கு சார்.
also.
இதெல்லாம்
Yeah,
எப்படி ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணதா? டைமிங்ல ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணணும்.
So it is all done virtually.
Yeah, using the Slack platform, it has been done. Yeah.
And what are these two problem statements? What domain they are in?
It's going again from Ministry of Pondicherry. It's all related to IT, sir.
Okay, sure. So it's a software hackathon, not the hardware.
Yeah, it's a software edition.
Okay, sure.
Okay, sir, it's now 7:30. Let me start, sir, with your
Sure.
permission.
Please.
Good evening, all of you. So before starting this session, I would like to request all of you to kindly keep your audio and video on mute mode. So special thanks to Dr.Shankar Venugopal sir for accepting this invitation to deliver this leadership talk. To give you a very brief background about this Untitled Hackathon software edition. So Welltech is one among the nodal center, and we are hosting in second time. So this is a software edition. We have around 35 teams working for 7 problem statements. It was given the Ministry of the Government of Goa and Government of Puducherry. So there are 210 students from various parts of India have been working. So today is our second day. So this is a very brief background of Smart India Hackathon 2020 software edition. So as part of leadership talk, so I would like to inform you that the participants are from SIH 2020 participant, and we also have a Welltech students, and we also have a startups who are working in Welltech TBI. So these are a list of the participants are there in this platform. So before going on to you, sir, so I would like to take some few minutes to introduce you about your brief profile. So Dr. Shankar Venugopal, Vice President, Mahindra and Mahindra is a technology leader, prolific inventor and innovation coach, with special focus on disruptive technologies and sustainable solutions. He started his graduation from Vivekananda College, University of Madras, BSc Physics, in the year 1987, and his MSc from Sri Satyasai Institute of Higher Learning, and also he has a PhD from IISc Bangalore in the area of material science in the year 1997. During his PhD, he received his Best Thesis Award, Professor K.P. Abraham Gold Medal in 1997, and he also hold MBA from IIM Bangalore. So before he became a part of Mahindra family, he worked various positions, including ISRO scientist, technology lead from GE, and visiting professor at Symbiosis Institute of Business Management. And he is also a scientist from Honeywell and technology planning from Cummins. Since 2016, Dr. Shankar sir has been working as a vice president in Mahindra family. So he is a technology innovator, skilled in translating technology ideas into a breakthrough innovation. He is well focused on creating technology innovation in sustainable mobility. He is also recognized as one of the top 50 innovation leaders by World Innovation Congress in 2020. So he works in wide variety of exponential technologies such as electric, autonomous, and connected vehicles. He is passionate about scouting new technologies for potential business opportunities, excellent track record in material innovation and new product development. He is also an inventor with numerous granted patent technical publications. Managed global cross-functional teams to deliver technologies that are critical to business growth. So he is co-inventor of 10 issued US patent and 10 Indian patent applications. He developed a systematic innovation method such as innovation flow and coached 1,000 plus innovators. He is also a TEDx speaker and a keynote speaker in innovation and mobility conference. Besides that, he is also our review member for Nidhi Praya scheme, which is supporting startups who is coming with the new business ideas to the prototype. So this is a very brief background of Dr. Shankar Venugopal sir. Sir, once again, thank you for accepting this invitation, and over to you, sir.
Thanks, Dr. Chandrakumar. Thank you so much. And I've been interacting with VecTech for the last few years. So I'm really very thankful for this opportunity to interact with the participants of the Smart India Hackathon, the software edition. Must have been a long day for you all working on your hackathon ideas. And it's a little bit late in the evening. So I'll try to keep my talk a bit brief and then keep more time for Q&A interaction with you all. I would like to learn as much from you as I want to share with you today. So let me just pull up my presentation and share the screen. Just give me a minute. I'm going to focus on what are those skills that we would need going to the future. So what you are doing today, the innovation and the prototyping and the idea creation is definitely one of the most important skills that we would need for us to be successful in the future. So I'm going to talk a bit about it and the various disruptive technologies that are shaping the future and what other skills are relevant for us going forward. It's the plan of the talk today. So let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, sir. We are seeing your screen.
Great. So I have titled my talk as Desirable Skills for the Future. And DESIRE is an acronym which stands for the various thinking skills that I'm going to introduce to you today. So that becomes easy for you to remember what we discussed today. So there is a lot of talk about this future, which is going to be quite different from the past and also the present. So do we really know what it is, let alone prepare ourselves for it? Do we know what the future has in store for us? This is $1 million question. Honestly, nobody knows what the future is going to be. But one thing that we can see is if the picture that you see here is representative of the past and the current situation, which is a very calm, serene, relaxed, a predictable environment. I'm sure many of you would like to be on a beach like this on a weekend like today. But if this is the analogy for what we have seen in the past and the present, the future is what I'm going to show the very next slide. This is nothing to worry about, but what I want to show you here is the kind of disruptions that are really shaping the future. Some of them are technology disruptions, some of them are business disruptions. But the magnitude of the disruption is what I show here as a tsunami wave. And there you are standing there right on the beach. And it could be me, it could be anybody else. But the wave is so big that we cannot ignore it. All of us have to figure out ways we can address a huge change like this that's going to impact almost all industries going forward. So we need to prepare ourselves to meet these changes. When I talk about skills that we would need, I'm talking about a skill like this, where this person, instead of standing passively before such a big wave, he or she, I can't remember from this figure, he or she is actually able to ride this wave and make this a very, very pleasant experience. So, the desirable skills for the future that we'll talk about today will be something like this. Skills that will actually help you to ride this big wave of change that is going to impact us. Because today you are still in the university. By the time you complete your studies and enter the industry is going to be quite different because of all the new technologies that are coming in and also the business model disruptions. The skills that we will talk about today, if you go ahead and acquire those skills and practice them, you'll be able to actually ride this wave of change and make it a very, very pleasant experience for you to be a part of creating the future. This is what is the importance of the topic that we'll be discussing today. I don't know, the last 3 months or even 4 months now have been a bit of a stressful time that you are all cut away from your regular classes. You're unable to go around and meet your friends or relatives. And suddenly life seems to have slowed down. Sometimes it looks as if it has come to a standstill. So it's natural for you to feel worried or concerned or feel a bit low about things around us. Because this is a very good experience. We have never experienced anything like this any time before. But let me tell you, crisis times like this have also given birth new ideas and inventions, new discoveries, and even new business models. I don't know how many of you can recognize the person with this long curly hair here on my chart. He is our good old Isaac Newton. Went through a similar phase when, because of the health crisis, not a pandemic of this magnitude, something smaller, but serious enough for the college to close down, and he was sent back home. So he was back home, and he was totally cut off from his teachers and library and all educational sources. And he had nothing better to do than sit and think about the problems that he would like to solve. And one fine day he happened to sit under an apple tree, saw that famous apple fall down, and he said, the force that pulls the apple to the ground is the same force that keeps the planets in motion, and he called it gravity. So, a crisis time like this is when Newton went on to develop the whole theory of gravity. Surprisingly, he didn't stop with that. He also developed entire physics of optics, also developed this powerful tool calculus, all during this crisis time. So Newton was super productive during a crisis time like this. It's not just one person, Newton, we are talking about. Many of the inventions that I show here, the ATM machine, the V2 rockets, the humble ballpoint pen, even the Nescafe, the instant coffee, all this were created during post-World War time. All this were, in fact, the Second World War. Soon after that, the whole world went through a depression and things were very tough. That's when these inventions were made. And we can't imagine our life without an ATM machine or a ballpoint pen, or for coffee lovers, the Nescafe. And it's not just science and technology. Even business model innovations have happened during crisis times. It was during the financial crisis when people were looking at new sources of making money. That's when somebody thought, can I use my car to generate additional money for me? Can I use the extra room in my house? Can I rent it out and make some more money? So the ideas of Uber, Airbnb, even Alibaba, they all picked up momentum only during a financial crisis. So whether it's a health crisis, a post-war kind of a situation, or a financial crisis, these are also times when the creativity peaks up and a lot of new ideas and innovations prosper. So that way, friends, this is a good time for us to pursue new ideas and coming up with innovative approaches. So I'm glad that the hackathon is happening at this time, because this is the best time for you to give shape to your innovative ideas. I work for Mahindra and Mahindra. So my big boss, Mr. Anand Mahindra, gave an interview to Economic Times sometime in mid-March when the whole lockdown had just started. He challenged us to use this lockdown period to actually reboot, reinvent, and also reignite our dreams. He said, can we use this time to prepare ourselves for the future and to serve the post-corona world? Can we use this time to reboot all our processes and reinvent ourselves? Can we use this time to come up with new ideas and innovations and to dream those bigger dreams with which we can create the future? So I'm glad to be with you, a bunch of very smart young engineers who are already on this track. And all I want to do is share with you a few useful ideas that could further accelerate your journey. So before we talk about what skills we need for the future, we should know what are those technologies that are shaping our future. I'm sure each one of you is from a different engineering background, and you'll be curious to know what are those technologies which will have the maximum impact on our future. So let me show you what those are. I just picked up about 12 technologies that I am fairly familiar with and that I have been tracking the evolution and its impact. There could be a few more, but this chart essentially captures the most important technologies that are shaping the future in a very powerful way. Starts with the mobile internet, which is omnipresent and omniscient. Then comes the cloud technology, then the Internet of Things, popularly known as IoT. Then comes renewable energy, the energy storage, especially the lithium-ion battery kind of very powerful storage technologies. Then the advanced robotics. Then AI and a bunch of cognitive technologies, machine learning, deep learning that comes along with it. Then advanced materials like graphene, carbon nanotube, and so on. Next generation genomics, of which I do not know much, because of my background is more of physics and materials. So my knowledge of what's happening in the biology space is limited. But a lot of interesting stuff happening in that space. I'll briefly touch upon those. And interesting things even on oil and gas exploration and recovery, new technologies like fracking and shale oil. Autonomous and near autonomous vehicles, a very big way. And finally, additive manufacturing with the primary focus on 3D printing, scalable 3D printing. So these 12 technologies, the convergence of two or more of these technologies are actually changing the entire landscape and shaping the future in a very, very fast and effective way. So I would encourage each one of you to expose yourself to these 12 technologies. It could be through attending talks, it could be through doing a course in Coursera, edX, Udacity, any of those, or our own NPTEL and Swayam. A lot of very good courses are there. But make sure you know something about each of these technologies that you see here. Of course, I will share this presentation so you'll be able to see all these charts at leisure. Don't worry about making notes as we talk today. Internet is right at the bottom of the pyramid. A lot of these technologies are possible because now the whole world is connected to the internet. We started with internet just connecting the computers and devices. Today we talk about Internet of Things, where the machines also get connected. And going forward, we are looking at a connected world where everything will be connected. So that's at the base of the pyramid of Maslow, the famous Maslow's pyramid of hierarchical needs. Now, internet is right at the foundation because you cannot imagine life without internet. You won't be happy. If everything is provided but internet connectivity is not provided, you are not going to be happy. So a lot of the technologies that we'll talk today assume fairly basis connectivity as the foundation. If you look at computing, what was a supercomputer in 1975 and costed about $5 million? Your smartphone in your pocket actually has more computing power than the supercomputer of 1975. Lot more. And it costs much less. It's not $5 million, maybe it's about $500. And this has far-reaching consequence across multiple domains, including the biological domains. So I have broadly bucketed these technologies into a few categories. The first is digitization, which is life and work, a combination of these 5 technologies: mobile internet, cloud, AI, digital payments, and also verifiable digital identity. I'm sure a lot of you are already using these technologies in your hackathon, so it's nothing new for you. Second set is the smart technologies, IoT, intelligent transportation and distribution, which will cover electric, autonomous, and connected vehicles. Then advanced geographical information systems and the next-gen genomics. Then the last 2 areas are clean energy, which is renewables and advanced energy storage, more importantly, and advanced materials and manufacturing, which is materials like graphene, carbon nanotubes, and also manufacturing like 3D printing. 3D printing of not just plastics and polymer composites, but 3D printing even of metals, ceramics, and alloys, whatnot. So with this knowledge of the technologies that are shaping our future, let me quickly deep dive into those skills that will help us to be successful in this future. The very first skill, most important of all thinking skills, would be design thinking. So as engineers, when you're participating in a hackathon and building a prototype, you're all design thinkers because you're able to design something which represents your idea. You're able to make it work. So I'm actually talking to a bunch of not just plain engineers, but design thinkers. 2 aspects are very important when you talk about design thinking. The first is your ability to empathize with your end user or customer. Empathize means ability to actually understand the constraints, the pain point of your customer, and define the problem that will address those pain points, and use your innovation, your creativity, and your domain knowledge, engineering domain knowledge, to remove those pain points. You can do that only by living with your customers for some time. Eat the same food that they eat, dress the same way, go through their daily life for you to understand what would bring value for them. So as engineers, we need to train ourselves to do that. If you are building a solution for farmers, you have to go to a village and live with the farmers for a few weeks. Then only we'll be able to address their real problems. You may be thinking of precision farming, IoT, and robotics, but unless you live the life of a farmer and understand, you won't be able to use your technology. So empathizing with your end customer is the most important aspect. Second aspect is human-centered design. Whatever you design should keep the end user, the customer, at the focus of all you do. You should not lose focus of that. Sometimes as engineers, we get carried away by the technology and forget the human who needs to be right at the center of what we do. And design thinking is all about empathizing with your customer and also keeping the human at the center of your design. It looks at three things to filter your ideas. Is this idea desirable for my customer? Is my idea technically feasible? Is my idea economically viable? Hence, will it make money? So these are the three filters that we use as design thinkers to screen all our ideas. So design thinking in a simple manner is bringing the brain and your heart together. Heart for empathizing and a brain for analyzing. So design thinking is a combination of both. In the engineering curriculum, you may learn a lot about the analysis part, but the empathizing part is what you need to consciously expose yourself and strengthen that part. Then you will be able to create wonders. All great innovators like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, they are also very powerful design thinkers. That's how they could create products that appeal so much to all of us. Second important thinking skill is exponential thinking. Exponential thinking, all the technologies that we are going to use, like IoT or AI, machine learning, all these are growing exponentially. The performance of this is growing exponentially. So our thinking cannot be linear, cannot be slow. Our thinking also has to be non-linear and exponential. So let me explain this with a small story. This goes back to the days when the game of chess was invented. And when the inventor demonstrated the game to the king was truly impressed and said, "I'd like to give you a worthy reward. What would you like to have?" And the inventor said, "Just give me a few grains of wheat." King was surprised. "I thought of giving you some very expensive reward. You're asking just for a few grains of wheat? Is that what you want?" The inventor says, "Yes, in a particular way. Just give me 1 grain for the first square, 2 for the second, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, and so on." The king did a quick math and said, "Okay, even if you go all the way till the 64th square, it's not going to add up much. Maybe it could be 10 bags of wheat. No problem, we'll give him," because he's talking about single grains. He's not talking about a lot. So the king said, "Fine, you will have your reward." But actually, when they started bringing the available wheat from the granary, tried to give the reward to the inventor, they realized that the inventor had asked for 2 power 64 minus 1, which is this mind-boggling big number that you see out there. And that adds up to so many thousands and thousands of metric tons. And this is about 1,645 times the global production of wheat just about 5 years back. So even today, if you put together all the wheat that is grown across all the countries in the globe, we would need 1,645 years to accumulate the wheat that this inventor asked for as reward. Friends, this is the power of exponential. Looks simple. It starts with just 1, 2, 4, 8 kind of limited number of grains that we can easily visualize. But as it grows bigger and bigger and bigger, it becomes unimaginably big. That is exponential. It's very different from the linear incremental world that we are familiar with. Friends, we are all getting into the exponential world because the technologies that we are going to use, many of the technologies that you use today in the hackathon, they're all exponential technologies. So we also need to think exponential in terms of ideas, problems that will bring a 10x improvement, a 100x improvement, or a 1000x improvement as compared to what it is today. So we need to think exponential and not linear. Evidence of it is the famous Moore's law, where Gordon Moore predicted way back in 70s that the computing power would double every 18 months, and also the cost of computing will become half every 18 months. We have seen that till recently, this Moore's law has been followed, and there has been a doubling every 18 months. And Look at it. How many thousands of transistors we are able to squeeze the same space where we had only 1,000 transistors in 1970. We have 100,000 transistors, the same space today in 2000. 2020, we are talking about, Intel is talking about sub 10 nanometer chip, the challenges of creating such a technology, especially mass manufacturing such chips. So today we are looking at whether the Moore's law will really continue or will there be a change. Man, this doubling has happened for so many years. Can you imagine? So this is what we mean by exponential growth of technology. And this is not just the computing power that we are talking about. If you look at the storage space, the hard disk, memory, that has also gone through exponential growth over the years. The capacity to store information has doubled and grown so large. Also, the cost of storing information has also fallen down drastically. The third, which is communication. If you look at our ability to transmit information, thanks to the improvements in fiber optic communication, our ability to communicate also has grown exponentially. So our ability to compute has grown exponentially, our ability to store has grown exponentially, and our ability to communicate this information, that has also grown exponentially. So we are really in an exponential world. And all these technologies, if you are using in your product or solution, they are all growing exponentially. That's the reason why we also need to think exponentially. This is just one example of a product which is at the convergence of multiple exponential technologies. This is a small 8-seater bus called Oli. Oli is 3D printed. 90% of what you see in this is 3D printed. It's made of lightweight composite materials. And this is electric. And this is connected. This is also autonomous vehicle. But what is most interesting about this is it says IBM Watson IoT on the top. Can you see this? So this vehicle doesn't have any onboard intelligence. It just has a few basic cameras and sensors. It looks at the immediate surroundings and passes on this information to Watson sitting on the cloud. The Watson does the computation and instructs this vehicle to either accelerate, or apply brake, turn left, or turn right. And with this kind of arrangement, this vehicle is able to travel at normal speeds, even in dense traffics in the cities. And this vehicle has been around on the roads for maybe more than 5 years now, and we have gathered sufficient data to look at what we can do to further improve products like this at the convergence of multiple exponential technologies. The third and the most important thinking skill is sustainable thinking. Sustainable thinking is important because we are handling so many innovative ideas and so many new technologies, but we should not lose focus on the sustainability aspect. December 2019, New Delhi was like this, where it was so foggy, and because of the smog, the visibility was so poor, and even in daytime, we couldn't see much. Just look at 5 months after that, in April 2020, somebody in Jalandhar took a picture, and the air quality was so good, so clean, that they could see the Himalayan mountains in the background. So nature is actually able to heal itself quite fast. It's very important for us to recognize the importance of developing technologies that have a positive impact on the environment. We just cannot afford to negatively impact the environment in any way. So as innovators and tech entrepreneurs, I would encourage each one of you to make sure that the technologies and the solutions that you are building are absolutely sustainable. Most important. And I'll just quickly touch upon the last two skills the next couple of minutes and wrap up so that we can keep more time for Q&A and discussion. Okay? The last but one skill is innovative thinking. And we are all very innovative. So you already know what innovation is all about. So I won't spend too much time on this. I had just a few tools and techniques here in terms of divergent thinking, which is coming up with many ideas, and then adaptive thinking, which is to think in different ways so that for the same problem, you'll be able to look at it multiple perspectives and come up with ideas. And then reverse thinking, which is all about brainstorming for the reverse problem, not the original problem. Like if you're trying to create an innovative school, instead of thinking of a school that will have a teacher, a building, exams, and students, we'll think of a school where there is no teacher, no building, no exams, no students. Come up with a lot of ideas and take those ideas and put it back in the original system and make it very, very creative. So because of, since it's a long day and it's the end of the day for you, I don't want to delve into many of these and I'll just quickly move on. But I'll share these details with you so that you can take a look at it post this talk. Last but not the least, I had a tool called Convergent Thinking Tool, which is when you have lots and lots of ideas, how to combine these ideas and decide which of these ideas to pursue. I learned this tool from Disney Imagineers. I thought I would share this with you all. So I won't spend time. I'll just move to the last part, which is rational thinking, and wrap up my presentation with that so that we can spend more time interacting with each other through the Q&A. Rational thinking is basically recognizing certain cognitive biases that we have in our minds, and many of the time these biases influence our ability to think and make decisions. So I'll just illustrate two biases and then stop at the stage. So here is a situation. You are at a movie, and this movie was supposed to be good, but you find it to be really boring. So you have two options. Would you leave the movie in the middle and just go out and do something? Or you will sit through and see the movie till the end. Okay? Here is where there is a funny thing that happens. It depends whether you bought the ticket with your own money versus a situation where a friend bought the ticket and said, I am unable to go, so here is a free ticket. If you want, you can go. Many times what happens, if we have spent the money, we don't want to let it go waste. So we say, okay, I'll sit through the movie and see the end. If they have not spent the money, if it's a free ticket, say, what the heck? It's so boring. I'm just getting up and going away. So this, I don't know for how many of you it happens, but believe me, there are many, many of us who have this cognitive bias. It's a very powerful bias. It's called a sunk cost bias. Just because you have invested some money, you don't want to let go of that idea. You want to hold on to it. And that can be a bad decision. It can do a lot of harm. But this cognitive bias is something that we should be able to recognize and get out of so that it doesn't influence our decision. The second bias, which is the last one I'll talk about, is called a framing effect bias. Here is a situation. A 65-year-old relative of yours suffering from a serious disease. This disease makes her life miserable, but it does not pose an immediate risk to her life. She is managing fine. She can go through an operation that, if successful, will cure her. However, the operation is risky. 30% of the patients undergo the operation die. So if 30% patients actually die, would you still recommend that she undergoes this operation? This is situation A. Situation B. The doctor, instead of telling that 30% of the patient die, if he tells you that 70% of the patients who go through this operation survive, would you recommend that she undergoes this operation? So it's the same fact, nothing has changed. Instead of telling that 30% will die, the doctor says 70% will survive. But friends, you may think this is funny, but actually many of us seem to change our decision based on whether we hear it this way or that way. This bias is called a framing effect bias, and many a times people make use of this to convince us for one decision or the other. So this is something that we should be aware of. Make sure that we don't get biased and we make the right decision. So that's all about rational thinking. And there are many such biases. I just showed you two. The person who came up with this, Daniel Kahneman, he went on to win the Nobel Prize a couple of years back. He also wrote this famous book, Thinking Fast and Slow. So there are many such biases which you can easily Google and read up about it and make sure that you don't suffer from that bias. So all we discussed today, friends, was a bunch of 5 thinking skills that will help us to prepare ourselves for the future. And the future is very different because it's being shaped by many powerful disruptive technologies and disruptive business models. So, what made us successful today may not be sufficient for us to be successful tomorrow. That's why I wanted to emphasize the importance of these 5 thinking skills: design thinking, exponential thinking, sustainable thinking, innovative thinking, and rational thinking. So, with this, I'd like to stop talking and wait for questions from you so that we can have a discussion around this. That's going to be more interesting than the talk.
Thank you very much, sir. It was excellent presentation. I really loved it. I hope the participant too. So I invite the participant. You can unmute and interact with the speaker. If you have questions, please come forward.
Good evening, sir. This is Dr. Manoj from the Department of Biotechnology. First of all, I want to congratulate you for the excellent presentation and the really rational way that you spoke to us, and it was really enlightening. The question which I would, yes, sir. The question which I would like to ask is, especially when we are teaching, biology-related design programs, the important thing is to reach out to different disciplines of students. So, how do you suggest that I introduce these disruptive ideas to a wider audience? That is, in a classroom, I will have students from computer science, I will have students from electronics, I will have students from mechanical engineering, and I am trying to reach out to them through biology. But what I'm really trying to introduce to them is IoT, artificial intelligence, and their applications for biology in these fields. So, how do you, as an industrialist, see the best way possible to reach out to the students, sir? Would like to know your thoughts on this.
Yes. These boundaries, like electronic engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, or biosciences, these boundaries exist only in the university. The moment you come to the industry, you don't have these boundaries at all. When we build products, it's basically a cross-functional team where people with the different backgrounds come together and work. If you're talking about building an electric car, we need mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, electronics engineers, and computer science engineers, all working along with the designers to design an electric car that would address the needs of the customers. So it's very important to bring this cross-domain, cross-functional flavor to everything that we teach, because the real world is cross-functional and cross-domain. Having said that, people come with different backgrounds. It's not easy to teach in the same way to all of them, because each one comes with a very different background, and everybody has to be brought to the same page before you can teach and introduce something new. That's where, Manoj, I have a thought, which is you can't teach everything. Part of it has to be self-paced learning, where they do their own learning and come to the classroom. Part of it is a teacher-led learning, where you train them, you share some practical tips and help them to solve problems. The third part is, as they learn, they go ahead and participate in a mini project. It could be like a hackathon like this, where in 24 hours, they build a product. I have participated in hackathons, medical devices hackathons, where engineers and doctors work together. These things are possible. To create a solution in just 24 hours is very much possible. But that kind of accelerated learning is the best way. So I'm looking at a combination of 3 things. Self-paced learning, which is somebody going for a Coursera or edX kind of a course and learning something on their own before they come to your classroom. And Manoj, then you as a teacher, you come in and do some teacher-led facilitation. And then third part, there is a mini project or a hackathon where they come together and work to create or to prototype their idea. So real learning is a combination of all these 3. So it cannot happen in the classroom alone. It's an extended learning. Some of it happens at your own private time at home, some of it in the classroom, and some as an extended project.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Manoj.
Next question.
I think many students are quite tired at the end of the day. I think let them go have their dinner and crash.
One more minute.
Yes.
So any question from SIH participant students?
So don't wait to ask a perfect question or a very brilliant question. Any question is only by question and answer will be able to gauge how much of this was useful to you.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. I'm a student of Welding.
Yes,
I have
go
a question, but it's rather not relevant to the topic that we are discussing today. If you may allow me to ask.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead. If you can answer, we'll surely answer.
Yes, sir. So, what type of books do you prefer to read? That's a kind of personal, but if you can answer that.
Sure, definitely. Maybe I should just show you what I'm reading currently so that you know what I read. Okay, yeah, just give me a minute. Just me. Uh, can you see the book that I'm showing you now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I
Book
can see
which
that.
applies design thinking to actually decide what you want to do at work and also in life. Okay, this is one book. So this is written by a couple of Stanford professors, and they offer it as a course at Stanford. And many students use this to figure out what they want to do in their career and also in their life. So this is called Designing Your Life. Okay, Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. The other book that I'm reading, I like to read multiple books in parallel. I don't read one book at a time. The other book is called Systems and Architectural Thinking. And this is written by a group of three MIT professors. And this brings the importance of systems thinking into the engineering domain. How we can solve engineering problems in a better way through systems thinking. Okay, this is the second book. I'll just show you a third book that I'm reading. I keep switching between multiple books, so I'll show you the third book also. This is a very important book called Range. This talks about why being a generalist is as important as being a specialist in the future world. By generalist, we mean exposing ourselves to multiple domains and developing a lot of breadth. Because traditionally, only deep domain experts were given importance. The future world, both deep domain experts and broad generalists, both will have a very. So this book is called Range, and it's very extreme. And he has some talks on the YouTube also. You can listen to his talks and then decide. Last book, the fourth one, is a book called Autonomy, which is about the way this whole thing started with the DARPA Innovation Challenge and how the autonomous vehicle technology has evolved over the years. So these are the four books at my desk currently. So I keep switching between one book to other all the time. Thanks for asking this because I like to read a lot, and so I'm glad that you asked this question.
Thank you so much, sir.
What's your name?
So, my name is Arun Kumar Prasad.
Thanks, Arun. Sure.
There is no question. I think we can wind up, sir.
Sure, Chandrakumar.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us in this late Sunday. It was a really enjoyable presentation, useful. I think people are in this platform definitely find this very much useful. Thank you so much.
I'll send you the presentation so that you can share it with the students and faculties. Yeah?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.